All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling Transcendental Meditation, TM for short. You know, it seems like everyone's buzzing about finding some inner peace these days, and we've got a whole stack of your sources here, so clearly you're on board.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic.
But honestly, meditation in general can seem a little, intimidating.
Right, like you need to be some kind of Zen master or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if I told you there's a technique that's, well, almost effortless? That's what we're exploring with TM today. And get this, some of the details are pretty mind-blowing. We're talking deeper relaxation than sleep. A specific brainwave pattern linked to restful alertness. Heck, we might even drop a cell phone to explain it all.
Well, I'll try to keep my phone safe.
Go.
But you're right, TM really does challenge a lot of those preconceived notions about meditation. No need to twist yourself into a pretzel or chant in a cave somewhere.
So you're saying no lifestyle overhaul required?
Nope. TM is about accessing a natural state of calm that's already within us.
Okay, you had me at effortless. But seriously, the sources really emphasize how accessible TM is. Like, no strict rules, no philosophies to follow. You just learn the technique and let it do its thing.
And you know what's really interesting?
What's that?
You can be skeptical, even doubtful, and it still works. It's kind of like, gravity.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Like, you don't have to believe in gravity for a phone to fall if you drop it, right?
Sure.
TM taps into a similar kind of natural mechanism within us.
Okay, I love that analogy. Gravity, we all get it. So speaking of natural mechanisms, one of the sources uses this really vivid ocean analogy to describe what happens during TM. They talk about being on a boat with waves crashing all around you, which represent those busy racing thoughts.
The monkey mind.
Right. But then they say deep beneath the surface, there's this profound stillness.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it's a good one. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a powerful way to visualize TM. Those surface waves, like you said, that's our everyday monkey mind, right? All those thoughts, worries, to-dos. But TM is not about forcing those waves to stop. It's about diving beneath them.
So we're not trying to make the mind go blank. We're just shifting our awareness to a different level.
Exactly, to that reservoir of calm that's already there.
I'm picturing myself in that boat now, feeling the waves, but knowing there's that stillness deep down. It's almost like TM is giving us permission to access that calmness.
And permission to let go of that struggle to control the mind.
Which can be exhausting.
Oh, absolutely. TM is about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific. What's actually happening during TM? One of the sources describes it as this inward journey, moving through quieter levels of thought. They even use terms like the source of thought and pure consciousness. It all sounds very profound.
It is profound, and the language might sound a little mystical, but what's remarkable is that this isn't just some airy-fairy concept. There's actual science backing this up.
Wait, so this isn't just people having nice, relaxing thoughts. We're talking actual, measurable changes in the brain.
Exactly. Over 340 peer-reviewed studies demonstrate real effects of TM, both on the brain and the body. And it's not just feeling more relaxed. We're talking changes in brainwave patterns, hormone levels, even cardiovascular health.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Let's dive into that science a bit.
Yeah.
One finding that really stood out to me was that TM induces a state of rest that's even deeper than deep sleep. And as a self-proclaimed sleep enthusiast, that definitely piqued my interest.
Deeper than sleep. Now that's impressive.
Right. But what does it actually mean for us? Like, how does that translate into tangible benefits?
Well, think about it. Deep rest equals reduced stress, better sleep quality, and even a lower risk of heart disease. Research shows TM can lower your cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, by a whopping 30%.
30%, that's significant.
It is. And at the same time, it boosts serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter.
So we're not just talking about a subjective sense of calm. There are actual physiological changes happening in the body.
Precisely.
Amazing. But one of the sources went even further, claiming that TM can actually change the way your brain functions. Is that even possible?
It is, and it's fascinating stuff. Studies show, for example, that regular TM practice strengthens the connections between the frontal lobe of your brain, that's the decision-making executive function center, and other areas.
So it's like TM is giving your brain a workout.
You could say that. It's strengthening those neural pathways, improving communication between different areas of the brain.
So what's the practical impact of that? Does this mean TM could make us, smarter?
Well, it's not about boosting your IQ, but rather optimizing how your brain functions. Think of it like this. Stronger connections in the brain mean better communication, which leads to improvements in things like focus, memory, and even decision-making.
Okay, so sharper thinking, better decisions, I'm definitely on board with that. But there was one more thing about the brain I wanted to ask about, the alpha brain waves. The sources mentioned that during TM, there's a spread of alpha waves in the brain, which is associated with this idea of restful alertness. What exactly does that mean, and why is it significant?
Restful alertness is a great way to describe that state you experience during TM. It's that feeling of deep relaxation, but you're not sleepy or spaced out. You're alert, aware, but your mind is calm and quiet.
So it's like the best of both worlds. The calm of deep relaxation combined with the alertness of, well, being awake. And these alpha brainwaves are the signature of that state.
Exactly. Alpha waves are associated with relaxed focus, kind of like when you're daydreaming or just waking up. And during TM, this alpha brainwave activity spreads throughout the entire brain, creating this more integrated, harmonious state.
So it's not just one part of the brain chilling out, it's like a whole brain relaxation party.
That's one way to put it.
Okay, this is all starting to paint a pretty compelling picture. We've got deep relaxation, stress reduction, improved brain function, all backed by science. But there's one thing I'm still a bit fuzzy on, and that's this whole idea of the natural tendency of the mind and how it relates to TM.
Right, that's a key concept in understanding how TM works. Think about it this way. When you listen to music, you naturally gravitate towards music you enjoy, right?
Yeah, of course.
Or when you're having a conversation, you're drawn to the more interesting topics. It's effortless.
I see what you mean. Our minds naturally seek out experiences that are more satisfying.
Exactly. And TM utilizes this natural tendency of the mind to seek greater satisfaction. It provides a technique that gently guides the mind toward an even deeper level of satisfaction.
So instead of seeking fulfillment externally through music or conversation, we're finding it within ourselves.
You got it. TM is a pathway to access that inner source of fulfillment, and because it's aligned with the mind's natural tendency, the process becomes effortless.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together. The effortless nature of TM, the natural tendency of the mind, it's like this carefully orchestrated symphony guiding us towards inner peace.
I like that, a symphony of the mind.
But before we get too carried away with the music metaphors, there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to understand, and that's the mantra. Can you demystify that for us a bit?
Yeah.
What exactly is a mantra in the context of TM?
A mantra in TM is a specific sound carefully chosen for you by your teacher, and it's used as a vehicle for the mind to settle down.
Wait, so it's not about repeating an affirmation or some kind of motivational phrase. It's literally just a sound.
Exactly. And it's not about emptying your mind either. It's more about using the mantra as a gentle focal point to help the mind transcend thought altogether.
So it's not about focusing on the mantra itself or trying to analyze it, but rather using it as a tool to go beyond thought.
Precisely. It's a very subtle and effortless process.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together: the effortless nature of TM, the natural tendency of the mind, the role of the mantra.
It's all interconnected.
But before we dive deeper into the practice itself, let's take a step back and talk about the history and lineage of TM. This is where we get into the Vedic roots and the story of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the man who brought TM to the West.
Right. TM has a long and fascinating history, originating in the ancient Vedic tradition of India. It was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi who brought this ancient wisdom to the modern world in the 1950s, making it accessible to people from all walks of life.
So TM isn't just some new age fad. It's rooted in a deep and ancient tradition. And from what I've gathered from the sources, Maharishi was very adamant about preserving the authenticity of TM, making sure it was taught correctly through trained instructors.
Absolutely. He established a system of certified TM teachers to ensure the technique was transmitted in its pure form. That's why it's so important to learn TM from a qualified instructor. It's not something you can just pick up from a book or a video.
So finding a certified teacher is essential. Now, for someone like me who's dabbled in different types of meditation, I'm curious about how TM stacks up against other approaches. One of the sources mentioned 3 main categories of meditation-focused attention: open monitoring, and something called automatic self-transcending. Where does TM fit into all of this?
That's a great question, and it's really where TM stands out. So focused attention, that's what most people think of when they hear meditation. It's about concentrating on something specific, like your breath, an image, or mantra.
Right, like trying to quiet those surface waves in the ocean analogy.
Exactly. And then there's open monitoring, which is more about mindfulness, paying attention to your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
It's more like observing the waves without trying to control them.
perfect analogy. Now, TM falls into that category of automatic self-transcending. It's unique because it's not about focusing on anything or controlling anything. It's about effortlessly transcending thought altogether.
So it's not about emptying your mind, but going beyond thought.
Exactly. And that's where the mantra comes in. It acts as a vehicle to help the mind settle down to quieter levels of thinking until thought transcends itself.
That's a pretty radical departure from most meditation techniques I've encountered.
Yeah.
And from what I'm gathering, it's this effortless, self-transcending aspect of TM that makes it so accessible.
Absolutely. You don't need any special skills or abilities. You don't have to be flexible, sit in any weird positions, or empty your mind. You simply learn the technique and let it do its thing.
It all comes back to that natural state of calm that already exists within us.
Exactly. A state that's always available, just waiting to be accessed.
Okay, but I have to ask, what about the posture? A lot of people have this image of meditation requiring you to sit in some pretzel-like position for hours on end. Is that the case with TM?
Not at all. In fact, one of the great things about TM is its simplicity. You practice sitting comfortably in a chair with your eyes closed. No need for any fancy postures or contortions.
Okay, so no yoga-level flexibility required. Phew, that's a relief. But what about specific breathing techniques? Are there any special breathing exercises involved?
Nope. Another point for simplicity. You just breathe naturally during TM. The focus is on the mantra and allowing the mind to settle down effortlessly.
So it's really about creating that space for stillness and allowing that natural settling to occur.
Precisely. And that's why TM is so accessible to people of all ages and backgrounds. It's a technique that anyone can learn and benefit from.
So let's recap what we've learned so far. TM is an effortless, evidence-based meditation technique that uses a mantra to help the mind transcend thought. It's rooted in the ancient Vedic tradition, brought to the West by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and taught by certified instructors. It's accessible to everyone, regardless of experience with meditation. And the benefits? Well, those are backed by a whole lot of science.
That's a great summary. And I think it's important to emphasize that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore about TM, so many fascinating nuances and details.
I'm definitely ready to dive deeper. But before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. If TM really is this effortless pathway to inner peace and clarity, how might that transform your life? What could you achieve? How might you feel if you had access to that reservoir of calm and potential within you?
That's a powerful question to reflect on, and it's something we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into TM.
Stay tuned, deep divers. We'll be back with more on Transcendental Meditation after a short break.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Transcendental Meditation. You know, as we're going through these sources, one thing that really strikes me is the sheer amount of scientific research on TM. I mean, we've touched on it a bit, but we're talking over 340 peer-reviewed studies. Not every meditation technique out there has that kind of backing.
It's impressive, for sure. And it's not just focused on one area either. We've got research on stress reduction, heart health, anxiety, even PTSD. It really does seem like TM has this potential to touch so many different aspects of our well-being.
Yeah, and it's not just small-scale studies either. We're talking major institutions like the National Institutes of Health, even the Department of Defense, pouring millions of dollars into research on TM.
That definitely says something about its credibility. But beyond the hard science, I'm always curious about the personal stories too. You know, anecdotes aren't scientific evidence, of course, but they can offer a glimpse into the real-life impact.
Absolutely, and we've got a ton of those in these sources. People from all walks of life, celebrities, athletes, business leaders, students, they've all shared how TM has helped them. They talk about feeling calmer, more focused, even experiencing boosts in creativity.
It is intriguing to think that something as simple as sitting with your eyes closed for 20 minutes twice a day could have such a profound impact. No special postures, no intense concentration, no major lifestyle changes. It almost sounds too good to be true.
I get that skepticism, but the evidence is there. And it really all circles back to that principle we talked about earlier, the mind's natural tendency to seek out greater satisfaction.
Right, TM isn't about forcing the mind to do something it doesn't want to do. It's more about aligning with its natural inclination towards peace.
Exactly.
Speaking of that inner experience, one of the sources describes TM as an effortless inward journey, where the mind settles into quieter and quieter states, eventually transcending thought altogether. Can you paint a picture of what that actually feels like?
That's a tough one to put into words. It's such a personal and subjective experience, you know?
Sure.
Some people describe it as a sense of profound peace and stillness. Others might talk about a feeling of expansive awareness or even pure bliss. It's not something you can fully grasp intellectually. It's something you have to experience for yourself.
So it's not like you're sitting there actively trying to blank out your mind or control your thoughts.
No, it's actually the opposite. With TM, you're not trying to do anything. You're simply allowing the mind to do what it does naturally. Settle down to a quieter, more peaceful state. It's like watching a leaf gently floating down a stream.
Okay, I like that.
You're not pushing it or directing it. You're just observing as it effortlessly follows the current.
That's a beautiful image. But one of the sources also emphasized that this isn't just some spaced out, zoned out state. They called it restful alertness. What's the distinction there?
That's an important point to make. While TM does induce a deep state of relaxation, it's not about getting sleepy or dull. It's about experiencing that deep inner calm while staying fully alert and aware.
So it's not about escaping reality. It's more about accessing a different state of consciousness where we can be present, engaged, but without all the mental noise and chatter.
Exactly. It's like finding that sweet spot where you're both relaxed and focused, energized, yet tranquil.
I can definitely see how that would be beneficial in so many areas of life.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the really cool thing. That state of restful alertness doesn't stay confined to your meditation practice. It starts to spill over into your daily life. You find yourself reacting to challenges with more calm and clarity, making decisions with more ease, and just generally feeling more grounded.
So it's like TM is training our minds to be less reactive, more present, even when we're not meditating.
You could say that, yeah, it's like building a mental muscle, strengthening our capacity for inner peace and resilience.
Okay, so let's say I'm listening to this and I'm intrigued. I want to give TM a try. What's the next step?
Well, as we mentioned before, finding a certified TM teacher is crucial.
Yeah.
You really can't learn this technique from a book or a video. It requires that personalized instruction to make sure you're using the right mantra and practicing correctly.
You mentioned the official TM website earlier. Is that the best place to find a certified teacher?
It's a great resource. They have a directory of teachers all over the world. You could also ask around. You might be surprised how many people you know have experience with TM.
That's a good point. It seems like a lot of people practice TM quietly, under the radar.
So let's talk a bit more about the mantra. Since we're on the topic of learning the technique, we touched on it earlier, but it seems like such a central part of TM. How does it actually work? It's not like it's some magic word that instantly calms the mind, right? Haha. No, not quite. It's not that the mantra itself has some kind of inherent power. Remember, it's just a sound, carefully chosen for you by your teacher, that helps to facilitate this process of transcending thought.
Okay, but how does a sound do that?
Well, think about it this way. When you silently repeat a word or a sound to yourself, your mind naturally starts to settle down. It's like a gentle lullaby that soothes that inner chatter. And because the mantra used in TM is meaningless, it doesn't trigger any thoughts or associations. It's just a vehicle for the mind to move beyond thought.
So you're not trying to focus on the mantra or analyze it in any way?
No, the key is to let go of effort or control. You simply allow the mantra to arise naturally in your mind, almost like a whisper, and then you gently let it fade away.
So it's a very subtle process, not about forcing anything.
Exactly. It should feel effortless.
I'm starting to understand the mechanics of it now. It sounds like both patience and consistency are key. You're not going to achieve blissful enlightenment overnight.
Definitely not. Haha. Like any skill, TM takes practice. But the beautiful thing is that the practice itself is enjoyable and effortless. You're not forcing yourself to do something you don't want to do. You're aligning with your mind's natural desire for peace.
I appreciate you emphasizing that. So many people have this idea that meditation has to be this struggle, this constant battle with their thoughts. But what you're describing is a very different picture, one of ease, enjoyment, and flow.
That's really what TM is all about. And the rewards, well, they speak for themselves. Improve cognitive function, increase creativity, reduce stress, better sleep, even improved heart health. It's like this ripple effect of positive change that starts from within.
It really does sound pretty amazing. I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, sign me up. But I know there are always lingering doubts or questions.
Of course, that's totally natural.
Okay, so let's tackle a few of those common concerns head on. What about the person who says, I'm just too busy to meditate? 20 minutes, twice a day. For some people, that seems like a big ask.
I hear that a lot, and I understand where they're coming from. But here's the thing. The benefits of TM far outweigh the time investment. Think about it. If you can improve your focus, productivity, and decision-making with just 40 minutes a day, wouldn't that be worth it?
That's a good point.
And in the grand scheme of things, 40 minutes is a pretty small slice of your day. It's less time than most people spend scrolling through social media or watching TV.
Right, it's about priorities. And if you're really struggling with stress or anxiety or sleep problems, those 40 minutes could be life-changing.
Absolutely. And remember, TM isn't about adding something extra to your already packed schedule. It's about carving out those pockets of stillness, giving yourself the chance to recharge so you can approach everything else with more energy and clarity.
It's not another item on the to-do list. It's a practice that helps you better manage everything else on that list.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the concern that TM might conflict with someone's religious beliefs?
That's a valid question, but it's important to understand that TM is not a religion. It's a technique, a practice that transcends any particular belief system.
So you don't have to adopt any specific philosophy or change your lifestyle to practice TM.
Not at all. You can be an atheist, a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, it doesn't matter. TM is about accessing a universal human experience, that inner peace and expanded awareness that's available to everyone, regardless of their background.
I love that. It really does make TM feel inclusive. Now, I have to ask, what about the skeptics out there? The people who are wary of anything that sounds a bit too, I don't know, mystical or woo-woo.
Well, skepticism is healthy. And as we've discussed, TM is rooted in a lot of scientific research. This isn't some esoteric practice based on blind faith. It's something that's been rigorously studied and validated by the scientific community.
We keep coming back to that research, and it really is impressive. In fact, one of the sources addresses this skepticism directly, using a great analogy. The analogy of dropping a cell phone. You don't need to believe in gravity for that phone to fall, right?
Yeah.
Well, TM operates on a similar principle. It's utilizing a natural mechanism within us, and those benefits are there whether you believe in them or not.
Exactly. And in some ways, skepticism can actually be a real asset when approaching TM. It encourages you to engage with the practice with the discerning mind, to observe the effects for yourself, to come to your own conclusions based on your own experience.
It's about personal discovery, not blind faith. Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to one final point. We've been talking about TM as this effortless practice, but I'm curious, how does that effortlessness actually work? What are the inner mechanisms at play here?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of what makes TM so unique. To understand it, we need to dive a little deeper into the nature of the mind. Essentially, the mind is always seeking out experiences that are more satisfying. It's a natural process, wired into our very being. And TM offers a technique that leverages this tendency, gently guiding the mind toward that most satisfying experience of all. The experience of pure consciousness, that reservoir of inner peace and bliss that resides within each of us.
Okay, I'm following you so far, but how does the mantra fit into that process?
The mantra acts as a vehicle, a subtle sound vibration that helps the mind detach from all that busyness of thought and effortlessly settle down to quieter levels of awareness. It's like a gentle whisper that guides the mind inwards, towards that source of stillness and silence within. And because the mantra is carefully chosen to be meaningless, it doesn't stimulate or distract the mind. It helps the mind transcend thought altogether.
So it's not about concentrating on the mantra, it's about using it as a tool to go beyond thought.
Exactly, to experience that state of pure consciousness that lies beyond the surface level of the mind.
That's fascinating.
It is, and it's really what sets TM apart from other techniques. It's not about controlling the mind or trying to empty it. It's about tapping into a natural process of transcendence, allowing the mind to experience its own essential nature. Pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure being.
That's a profound concept, and one that I think we could spend a whole other episode unpacking. But for now, I want to acknowledge that we've covered a lot of ground in this segment. We've explored the science behind TM, the personal stories of transformation, and the inner mechanics of the practice.
We've talked about the effortless nature of TM, the importance of finding a certified teacher, and the role of the mantra. And we've addressed some of those common concerns and questions that people often have.
But this is just the beginning of our exploration. In our final segment, we'll dive even deeper into the transformative potential of TM, exploring its impact on different aspects of life, its role in creating a more peaceful world, and the ongoing scientific research that continues to unravel its mysteries. Stay tuned, deep divers. We'll be right back with the final part of our journey into Transcendental Meditation.
Welcome back to our deep dive into TM. As we've been exploring these sources, one thing that's really struck me is that TM isn't just about personal transformation.
Oh, definitely not.
It seems like there's this whole other layer to it, this bigger picture.
You're right. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of TM, he often talked about this concept of a critical mass of meditators.
Critical mass.
Yeah, like if enough people tap into that inner peace, it can actually create a ripple effect, extending outward, influencing the world around us.
So it's like a collective consciousness thing.
Exactly. The idea is that when enough people cultivate inner peace, it creates a more peaceful collective consciousness.
And that can impact society as a whole in really profound ways.
That's a pretty amazing thought. So it's not just about personal benefits, but about contributing to a better world.
That's the beauty of TM. It has both individual and collective implications.
It does sound kind of idealistic, but is there any evidence to support this critical mass idea?
Actually, there is. Some studies have shown that when large groups of people practice TM together, there's a measurable decrease in crime rates, social unrest, even international conflict.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like TM is a superpower for good, not just for ourselves, but for the planet. Okay, so with so many different meditation techniques out there, why TM? What makes it stand out from the crowd?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And there's no one right answer, but here's what really resonates with me about TM. It's effortless, it's evidence-based, and it's universal.
Okay, I like those 3 points. Let's break them down. First, effortless. What does that actually mean in the context of TM?
Well, unlike some techniques that require a lot of concentration or discipline or effort, TM is about letting go.
Letting go.
Yeah, allowing the mind to settle down naturally, without forcing it. It's a practice that really anyone can do, no matter your age, your background, or your experience with meditation.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the evidence-based part. You've mentioned the research several times. Can you remind us why that's so important?
Sure. I think the scientific validation is one of the most remarkable things about TM. Over 340 peer-reviewed studies published in top journals. That's pretty significant.
It definitely adds a level of credibility. Okay, and lastly, you said TM is universal. What did you mean by that?
TM isn't tied to any particular religion, philosophy, or belief system.
Right.
It taps into a universal human experience.
That experience of inner peace.
Exactly.
So you don't have to buy into any dogma or change your lifestyle to practice TM.
Nope. It's simply about accessing something that's already within you, that natural state of peace and clarity.
I love that. It makes TM feel really accessible to everyone. It seems like we've come full circle back to this idea of TM tapping into our inherent potential. It's not about adding something new, it's about uncovering something that's always been there.
Exactly, and that's what makes TM so transformative.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the science, the history, the practice, and even the broader implications of TM for a more peaceful world.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. So for our listeners who are feeling inspired, remember that first step is finding a certified TM teacher.
Right, you can't learn this from a book or a YouTube video.
You can check out the official TM website or even ask around. You might be surprised who's been practicing TM all along.
And this could be the start of your own journey towards inner peace and fulfillment.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Transcendental Meditation. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.